What's up, guys, and welcome back to Laugh Napkin. My name is Frank, and today we're looking at two stories from r/iDOWorkHereLady. And the first story is about a guy who believes that a girl couldn't possibly know anything about comics because she's a girl. But oh, does he get a surprise. So let's get right to it. But before we do, you know what I'm gonna say. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell to be notified of future videos just like this one. Girls can't read comics. It's a short one, but kind of funny. Just the absurdity of it. The customer as much as my over-the-top reaction. It's been a few years, but I still remember quite well as it was unforgettable for me. I recently posted a rather nasty story that happened to me, and it felt good to rant about it. This is the only other time in my life that I met a really nasty person. The guy wasn't entitled, so to speak, just really dense and sexist. It was at my very first job. I was 15 and worked in a bookstore that specialized in sci-fi, fantasy, manga, and comics. This guy walks in and goes to the comic section. I let him browse for a few minutes, then I ask him if he needed any help. The cast is me and customer. Me. Can I help you, sir? I'm looking for gives me the title and number issue of a Captain America comic from the 1940s or 1950s. I don't really remember. Oh, I think Customer cuts me off. Could you get the Comics Pro? The male employee who was there most of the time. Let's call him Mike. Pardon? Mike. He's not here today, but I'd be happy to help you. You wouldn't know what I'm looking for. Why? Well, you're a girl. Girls can't read comics. It's not meant for them. You probably don't even know the difference between Marvel and DC, or even what either of those are. Go back to your Twilight crap and get someone who knows comics. As I said in my first story, I tend to blow a fuse very easily and I get snappy real quick. Back then, it was so much worse than now. Me. Sorry being a Marvel fangirl is so offending to you, but I'm the only one here. I'll go get that comic, which is, by the way, issue number X, not Y. I stormed off, went to get the comic in the back store, and walked back front and handed it over to him. And I was right about the issue number. Customer, don't get so angry over it. I'll get angry if I feel like it. After all, women are nothing but a bunch of overly emotional messes, unfit to do anything but look pretty and serve you dinner, right? My reaction was the proof of the overly emotional thing, but I didn't realize or care at the moment. Customer, that's not what I said. Well, had you stopped for 5 seconds thinking about what would come out of your mouth, you'd realize it's all the same. Girls can't do this, girls can't do that. It's 2012 for heaven's sake. Get out of the middle age already. Give me one good logical reason why a girl can't read or like comics. Customer blank stares at me. That's what I thought. Have a nice day. The guy did come back, and he never made a sexist comment to me again. But he pulled the same shit on other female employees and got told off by all of them. I know, my reaction was too intense, but I've gotten better over time, and I don't get so angry anymore. But the whole, there are things girls can't/shouldn't do thing still pisses me off to no end. This next story comes from a security guard who had some trouble with a tow truck company. And honestly, it's relatable as shit. I mean, who hasn't had an issue with a tow truck company at least once in their life? Although, every time I have tow truck issues, I always lose the battle and have to pay all this money to get my car out of the lot. Damn those towing companies. Anyway, let's get into the story. I'm clearly security. Here's a little backstory. About 3 years ago, I worked security for a multinational shipping company. We'll call them Best X. The cast is as follows. Me, my supervisor, tow operator, tow supervisor, cop. We had issues with non-employees parking in our lot and leaving vehicles while they carpooled to other jobs. There was a carpool parking lot on the other side of the road, but I digress. It had gotten to the point where employees and truck drivers weren't able to find parking. It became such an issue that eventually ops and security had a meeting and decided to issue parking passes that went into the windshields of employee vehicles, making it easy to identify who should be or not be parking. Security officers weren't required to get passes because we had our own reserved spaces. After about a month and a half, most employees had passes issued. We started tagging cars without passes with warnings, notifying that soon we would start having vehicles towed. There were a few employees who procrastinated getting stickers, but after the warnings, the rest of them got their passes. A few weeks later, we started having cars towed that didn't have passes in the windshield. At this point, we had all the employees' vehicles in a database that we could check the tags. If a vehicle is parked legally, I would call for a tow. Fast forward about 3 months, and we get to the purpose of this post. The towing company we contracted to remove vehicles is in and out 3, 4, 5 times a day, so they're all getting to know me. But apparently they hired a new guy who took the initiative and decided to cruise our lot and check on vehicles. I come out to check the lot just as he's finishing hooking my car up. My car that is parked in a reserved space for security. The conversation goes as follows. "Excuse me, who called for a tow? I cruised the lot to check on parking passes. This car didn't have one." "You aren't authorized to do lot checks. We call when a vehicle needs to be removed." "It's already hooked, so nothing I can do. It's going to the impound." "No, it's not. That's my car." "It doesn't have a sticker, it gets towed." Security's vehicles are exempt because we have our own parking spaces. "It doesn't have a sticker, it gets towed." At this point, I am beyond pissed, so I call my supervisor on the radio and ask him to come to the parking lot. "Supervisor, what's going on?" Tow truck driver, "This car doesn't have a sticker, it gets towed." Me, "That's my car. I didn't call for a tow." Supervisor, "Sir, why are you here if you weren't called?" Tow truck driver, "I was checking the lot for parking passes." Supervisor, "Okay, but why did you hook a vehicle from the reserved space?" Tow truck driver, "It doesn't have a sticker, it gets towed." Supervisor, "Security's vehicles are exempt because we have our own reserved parking spaces. You need to release the vehicle." Tow truck driver, "Let me call my supervisor." He calls his supervisor and puts the phone on speaker. Tow supervisor, "Once the vehicle is hooked up, my drivers can't release a vehicle without payment." Supervisor, "Your driver has hooked up a vehicle illegally. We didn't call you." Tow supervisor, "Once a vehicle is hooked up, my driver can't release it without payment." I'm fuming mad at this point, so I yelled, "If my car is not dropped in the next 30 seconds, I'm calling the police." Tow supervisor, "Once the vehicle is hooked up, my driver can't release it without payment." Supervisor, "So how much is it?" Tow truck driver, $135. Me, "I am not fucking paying $135 to get my car back when it shouldn't have been towed in the first place." Tow supervisor, "Once a vehicle is hooked up, my drivers blah blah blah." So I'm done being patient. I called the police, non-emergency, and told them my car was in the process of being stolen. They dispatch an officer and hang up. Supervisor, tow truck driver, and tow supervisor are all talking still while I was talking to the dispatcher. Me, "Cops are on their way. Put my car down." Tow truck driver, "I can't. My boss said to just wait for the cops." So we wait about 5 or 6 minutes, then a cruiser shows up. A cop comes to me and asks what's going on. I tell him that tow truck driver showed up without being called and hooked my car for not having a sticker. I explain that security's vehicles were exempt since we had our own reserved spaces. I emphasize that tow truck driver was not called. Cop, "Sir, you need to release the vehicle." Tow truck supervisor still on speakerphone, "Once my driver hooks a car, they can't release it without payment." Supervisor, "You weren't authorized to tow this car anyway." Cop, "Sir, you need to release this vehicle. Without authorization to tow, you're committing auto theft." Tow truck driver, "Okay, I'll drop it." Tow truck supervisor to tow truck driver, "Do not drop the car without payment." Cop tells tow truck driver to hang up the phone. He does, and then finally drops my car. Security now is required to have parking passes too, although Best X canceled the towing contract with that specific company. Let me just say I hold no ill will towards tow truck driver. He was just doing his job. But if security tells you to drop a vehicle that you're towing from a business for which there's security, you should probably do so. And that brings us to the end of today's video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and if you want to help out my channel, the best way to do so right now is by hitting that like button and leaving a comment down below. And for those of you who are not subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe for future videos just like this one. And I'll see you guys in the next one.